welcome back.
Hey.
Tell me about your semester. How did it go?
So it's been going well. I'm doing right now.
I'll go back. You come forward.
Okay.
Yeah, just so you're in the picture. Right. Go ahead.
So with my teacher, I've been doing some things differently, like not necessarily like an embouchure change, but a slightly different way of setting up. Like before, I didn't really prepare my embouchure at all. And then I would just sort of take a breath here, and as I was taking a breath, the mouthpiece would kind of move over, and I do have sort of like a side embouchure, and she said that that's fine, but the way I was doing it before created a lot of like tension in my lips because I was like sort of twisting,
Okay.
and I just couldn't really play out of the staff comfortably at all.
Okay.
And my endurance was really bad, and so setting up sort of this new way, it's a lot, there's a lot less like pain in playing, and I don't have a lot of control yet, but I can play higher now and longer, but because I have to kind of think about doing this new thing where before I play, I go like ooh and kind of relax the muscles, and then ear and engage the corners, and then play, and trying to just sort of engage both sides.
Okay.
I just thinking about that because I'm not used to it yet. I'm not incorporating the other stuff that I learned before from our lessons, or I forget about them, and breathing doesn't feel as natural, like I'm trying to get used to it.
Okay, great. All right. So why don't we have you just start to play a little bit, and I'm going to walk around and take a look at what's going on, and then we'll talk. But do the setup that Ingrid is, having you do now to, I guess, to have this new ear.
Yeah.
And then just play whatever you want, and I'll stop. Is that good?
Cool.
Okay, great.
Next time I'll play like an actual thing.
No, it's very good. It's great. So, Will, I want to go over a few things with you that we've talked about in the past that I think might help address some of the things that you're talking about. And I'm happy that this new embouchure is doing all of that for you, because it seems like you're able to get up there with a lot less worry than I think you have in the past, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Can you review with me what you remember about the spine, and tell me what you know about the spine?
When you're inhaling, the spine is like gathering, and then when you exhale, isn't it? It's sort of like
lengthening.
Right. Yeah, lengthening.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so but now let's talk about the parts of the spine. We know that we have the top 7 cervical vertebrae.
Yeah.
And then what comes after that? Do you remember?
The lumbar spine.
So it's the thoracic.
Okay.
And then it's the lumbar. And I think the most important thing to remember is that the spine is the weight bearing, and it's the load bearing and weight delivering part of our body, and the lumbar spine plays the biggest role in that. So we want to make sure that we have a whole body balance. And that's going to happen most easily when our head is balanced over our spine accurately, but specific, let's say, to the AO joint. So do you remember exactly how we would locate our AO joint?
You can put I forget what the
thumbs go here.
The thumbs go here, and then
great. And so where is the AO joint when you make that?
It's at the center of those.
Right, so you can't touch it. It's right there on the top of the spine and at the end of the skull, right? So that AO joint, in order for us to find easy balance, has to be balanced directly over the lumbar spine. But I want to get a sense from you of it exactly your understanding of where that lumbar spine is located. Do you mind putting your trumpet down for a minute, and I'm going to ask you some questions. So let's just say, actually go ahead and touch the back of your spine, and you're going to feel all those knobby protrusions. Do you feel those?
Yeah.
Those are your processes on the back of the spine. And if I had to ask you where you thought you would point to where the lumbar spine is, where would you say it is? Try to just guess where you imagine the lumbar spine is.
That's where it's like curved more forward?
Yeah, but show me like the directional area of where the lumbar spine is on your body. Just take a guess.
I can't remember.
Don't
So,
worry,
yeah.
don't be sorry, it's totally fine. So if we're gonna look for our lumbar spine, we're actually gonna put our hands under our ribs here. And that is, and then at the top of our, and I have this big sweater on, but at the top of our pelvis here, so at the bottom of our ribs, right under there, on the top of, that's where that lumbar spine is, right directly in that area of our, so if you were to put your hands here on your waist, that's really where the lumbar spine is located. So your AO joint needs to be at an easy balance over the lumbar spine.
Okay.
That's where you're going to find your easiest balance. And what I want to do is pull you out of that a little bit, just so you can get a sense of what being off is going to do to you, okay? So for now, let's just go way out of balance, and we're going to tilt our head forward, and we're just going to see what it feels like to raise our arms slowly, and just stop when you don't feel that comfortable raising your arms slowly. So I'm going to tilt my head forward, and I'm going to start to lift my arms. And when I don't feel like I can lift them comfortably, I'm going to stop. So go ahead and you try that with me. So I'm pretty much done right there.
Yeah, it's not,
Doesn't
it
feel
starts
so
to
great.
feel
Yeah.
yeah.
So now I'm going to put my head back a little bit, and I'm going to do it here. And I'm pretty much there too. Okay, so now I'm going to find a place where I think my AO joint is balanced over my lumbar spine. Before I have you do that, I actually want you to feel the spine. I want you to see this spine model that I have, and I want you to feel where the thickness of the vertebrae of the lumbar spine. You can see that this is the load-bearing part of the spine because it's the thickest. Look at how much thicker they are than the cervical and the thoracic.
Right.
So go ahead and stick your hand in here and feel this lumbar spine. Feel the thickness of it. And actually, go ahead. Yeah. So this is what's bearing the weight above, and it's what's delivering the weight on the bottom. It's really thick. So this part of the spine is exactly needing to be in alignment with your AO joint, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to see if we can get freedom of breath and freedom of arm movement when we're balanced over. And I want to take some time to find that balance. So we'll do the arm movement first. So now imagine that your AO joint, you're going to put it directly in balance over the lumbar spine, right? The front of the lumbar spine. And then let's try to lift our arms and tell me what you notice.
Yeah, it's much easier.
Much easier, right? So that's a goal of ours. Also, I think if we go to take a breath, we're going to have a similar experience. So when you're breathing in here, it doesn't feel as good as when you're really breathing in here. So a neutral head balance over. Can you just explore a little bit more? Take yourself out of it, bring yourself back into it. See if you can really find that perfect balance for yourself. I think it's helpful to take yourself out and then find that balance spot so that you're comfortable with it.
And should this whole area be like relaxed if it's in alignment? Will this be okay?
Yeah, you're not trying to add tension or stress anywhere. You're just trying to find the alignment of, and actually the front of the lumbar spine is going to be balanced over the hip joints too, which we'll get to in a minute. But you're going to have, when your head is in neutral balance over your spine, the neck muscles are going to be most relaxed. That's where the neck muscles are most relaxed.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's going to help our breathing. So I think that if we're doing anything when we play that is not quite in that easy alignment, we're going to have tension in the neck muscles. I actually have this wonderful phrase here, head must be in neutral balance on top of the spine. This is the best way to release your neck muscles. So even the slightest bit out. So right now, let's just do this. Let's experiment with going ever so slightly out of alignment. Now you're balanced. You've got that free arm movement. It's totally free. And just go out the tiniest bit, maybe a quarter of an inch, forward or back. You instantly
it's
can,
totally.
and it's a minor thing. So the one thing I'm wondering is when you play, that you know Ingrid has given you this new embouchure, are you staying in that balance?
No, I think I'm realizing now that I think I'm forward.
I'm thinking that that's what I was observing too when you were playing initially. So why don't you try it again and see what happens when you keep that AO joint balanced directly over the lumbar spine. Do everything that she's told you, but give that a try.
Towards the end of that, but I think when I think about it, I know you showed me that before, but I forgot that like the spine is like thicker.
Yeah.
Here, and thinking about that helped me. I think a little.
That's great because I'm learning about this too, and I'm understanding it better myself, which is why I wanted to sort of bring it out again with you. So we know that that part of the front of the lumbar spine is what bears most of the weight. It's the most of the load, and it's also the weight delivery into the thickest part of our pelvis. So that's right here, and we want to make sure that we're balanced there. And if we throw ourselves out of that, then we're gonna have our breathing. We're gonna feel it in our breathing. We're gonna feel it in our arms. So for example, there are two ways that you could be standing, and I think we've talked about this, but if you were to do the butt tuck, which I think is possible, then you're not gonna have that same, you can put your trumpet down again, but just notice ever so slightly, even if you do the butt tuck a tiny bit, how does it feel to raise your arms? And if you do the duck butt a little bit, how does it feel to raise your arms? And now go into your neutral, making sure you're not doing a duck butt or a butt tuck, and raise your arms. It's a very, it's a really specific spot, right? And then you want to be balanced evenly over that so that you have that freedom, because that's going to go right into the breathing. It's going to go right into that. So I think that's a wonderful way to keep trying to come back to it. I think I want you to try it a couple of more times and see what you notice. And make sure that you are balanced over your hip joints and that you don't have either a duck butt or a butt.
Are my legs like wide enough apart?
I think they're good, and I think as long as you don't have, the idea is not to lock or shut down, and we have gone into this greater trochanter movement in the past, so all of that applies. I just think we want to keep this balance.
Okay. Still getting used to doing
it's fine.
Let me do that again. Sorry. I'm still getting used to the new embouchure. I'm still getting used to like, I need to, yeah, I know I wasn't totally aligned the whole time, but there were moments where I would hit certain notes. I was like, okay, I know that I was like easy because I was
And are you able to, when you're coming out of it, are you able to bring yourself back into it?
not, that's harder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think one thing to do is just to explore a little bit more, what does it feel like to just be standing in that spot?
Right.
To just be moving, and all the movements that we make are micro movements. They're not supposed to be overt movements. They're just supposed to be, micro shifts into finding a better whole body balance. I mean, that's what we're constantly striving for.
Yeah.
So it would be good for you to try to just figure out when you come out of it, how to come back into it. There is one spot where we tend to have an overarching, we have some overarching going on, and that is actually at T12, and T12 is your thoracic vertebrae. It's directly over the lumbar.
Okay.
So this is one where I'm wondering a little bit if you might be having some overarching going on. So we have this is L5, 4, 3, 2, 1, T12 is right
Okay.
here. So it's a little bit above that, and I think, that's where you could get in trouble with your sort of butt tuck position, and it's then that you want to be feeling more comfortable going back into something that is more neutral, more balanced, right? So yeah, what do you think?
I think maybe there were times when I was just now when I was accidentally like mismapping a little bit and making thinking when I was trying to concentrate on the lumbar spine, accidentally like thinking too much about
A little higher,
the
or?
thoracic spine or whatever. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And just remembering that front of the lumbar spine is the
yeah,
is the load bearing, is the greatest load
Yeah.
bearing part of the spine, and the weight delivering. I mean, thinking about the weight being delivered down from that part
Yeah.
of your spine can also make a difference. Yeah. So I would say let's put the topic down one more time. I just want to do a little bit more with exploring where you find your balance to be easiest,
Mhm.
and and we can do some explorations with breathing and making sure that we are having our easiest
yeah.
balance for breath, right? So why don't we do a couple of more pulling ourselves in and out and coming back to what
Sure.
feels where the breath and arm movement is easiest, okay? So why don't we'll come forward again a little bit and maybe just do a little bit more of this. Try to breathe comfortably. Try to come back. Breathe comfortably. Do you notice a change?
Yeah.
This way a little bit? Or you're just maybe overarching a tiny bit here at T12? Back to this. Can you notice a change in how
Yeah,
that works?
it's a lot easier to. Also, there's not as much like sound when I breathe too.
Oh yeah, that's a great observation. Yeah. So I think that this kind of work where you're just trying to make sure that you're finding your whole body balance, and that can be done anywhere. It can be done standing in line at a grocery store. That's something that you'll want to come back to all the time, and you'll have an easier time doing that if it's just something you practice on a regular basis. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Let's we'll continue, but thank you for this.
Cool. Thank
Okay.
you.